Nolan King here for MMA Junkie, and I'm joined by UFC bantamweight contender Aljamain Sterling, who is trying his best not to get too crazy during this quarantine. Aljo, how you holding up, man?
Maintaining, trying to keep the sanity while we're staying home and doing absolutely nothing.
Well, you're not doing nothing because I've seen, you've been live tweeting Ozark. So is that been one of the main tools here to get you through this?
Yeah. That's been a new show we've been binge watching. I just turned my camera sideways. Um, and it's been pretty entertaining so far. It's kind of like a Breaking Bad, but a little bit of a faster paced show, and I love it. I like shows like that. That's the type of stuff I'm into.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm through season 2. That's a great show. I can't wait to watch the new season. And on the training end, man, how have you been dealing with this whole thing? I know a lot of fighters have had to make adjustments, and you're somebody that's trying to recover from an injury. You're trying to, you're at the tail end of your rehab, so to speak. So how have you managed on the physical side to stay active and make adjustments in that category?
Well, I built out my own little mini home studio gym, and in the garage, and that's pretty much it. My roommates, I was training with him. I was training with my brother and my Rob, and but now those guys don't live with me, so now it's just my roommate and I, and my girlfriend that's been in the house, and then I got my other roommate who's supposed to be coming back sometime next week. So I guess we're gonna try to figure out if we can just train with each other, because this whole quarantine thing, it's like some people are taking it like extreme to the max, like literally just in their room all day, and some people are just hanging out with the people in their household. So we're gonna see how we can work that out, and if we could get some training in, that would be ideal. So I don't keep gaining weight. I'm trying to maintain my weight as best as I can, but it's really, really hard when you just eating because you're just bored. You just want to eat for fun.
And I've liked following your Twitter account throughout this because I feel like you've given a very honest and fair take. You're not somebody that's totally silent on the issue, but you're not somebody that's overreacting. You're kind of finding that middle ground. And a couple of the tweets that you had, you were saying you were stressing the difficulties of, if you were to enter a camp right now, so to speak, that it would be tough. And you said something along the lines of, it would be okay if I'd be okay with waiting or something like that. So now that you're starting to kind of build like your home gym, so to speak, do you feel like that's a viable way to go through a training camp? Could you fight when you were quarantined, or would you prefer to just wait till this whole thing's over?
If we had to fight, if I were to told I would have to fight this month, it would absolutely not happen. Absolutely not happen. My gym is a very small gym. I don't have training partners. My roommate's never fought before. He barely knows how to even hold pads. I can't do jujitsu with him, and there's no room to even wrestle. So there's no real adequate training to get to a fight the right way, and then on top of that, maintaining your proper nutrition so that you can lose weight. Man, I'm walking around this morning 164. Earlier this week I was 168, and I'm trying to get my weight back down to stabilize around 60 again. But it's hard to do that when you're not working out the way you're normally used to working out. So that's the main thing. I love how these other guys are just being these yes men and trying to sound all cool. I think that's what they're really trying to do. I think they're trying to sound cool for the fans and the bosses by saying, yeah, I'll take the fight. I'm like, yeah, anyone could just say I'll take the fight, but are you doing yourself the best possible favor by just taking a fight? Absolutely not. So if you're going to say I'm just going to take a fight because you think it's going to put you in the good graces of the UFC brass, I think you're really deluded in the head, and you need to reevaluate the lessons that we've seen from previous fighters from generations, or should I say different eras of the game. And I like to think that it's nice to learn from your forefathers instead of making the same mistakes that they made, thinking that the UFC owes you anything. They don't owe anybody jack shit. They give you the fight. It's your opportunity, or missing out on the opportunity. And in my opinion, this is not even an opportunity. What is the opportunity in taking a fight where you're ill prepared? I don't see no opportunity whatsoever in that. And I think the UFC understands that once the ban gets lifted, the people who are desperate, need the money, or can't just wait and get through a proper training camp because they probably spent all their money doing stupid stuff, There's so many different ways you can spin this, that why people are just jumping at the bit to take a fight. There's no one in hell who's going to tell me I'm just taking a fight because I just love fighting. There's something wrong with you if you're just taking a fight because you love fighting in a time period like this when no one is able to properly train themselves. So there's more to it than meets the eye. I think people are thinking that the UFC is going to owe them a favor down the line, or they're in probably some type of financial trouble. And I get it. I'm not being completely I can't even think of the word right now, but I have empathy for it. I understand the situations because I've been there before. But I also learned it's not wise, and it's not a very calculated decision to take a fight like this out of pure emotion and just making rash decisions. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with everything. I think if these guys and these females kind of sit down and relax a little bit, evaluate the situation, and see that, hey, we're all stuck in this together. For you to jump the gun and say, I'm just going to fight because the UFC says they need fighters. Listen, you're in the UFC already. Why risk giving yourself a loss for whatever reason? Oh, because the other guy that you're going to be fighting, or the other female who's just as crazy who you're going to fight, is risking the same thing. I'm like, yeah. And you guys are gambling with your careers. If it's for a title fight, if it's to get into the UFC and you're willing to sacrifice a potential loss to get your foot in the door, okay, that makes sense. I get it. But there's risk versus reward for these guys who are all the ones who are ranked and talking about taking a fight that's not going to get them a title fight. I just think it's ill-advised, and they need to reevaluate what their goals are. If your goal is just to make money, hey, more power to you. I'm not knocking it. What I'm saying is, you think the UFC is going to owe you a favor because you jumped in last minute to take a fight? Let them go get somebody else and sign those guys up. It's ill-advised to your career to take a fight like that and potentially risk getting seriously hurt because you are not well prepared for a high-level fist fight. And like I said, that's just my take on it. Some people are sugarcoating it, and I don't know for what reason. I think the UFC is in the same situation. Dana's probably in the same situation, I would imagine. Obviously, he's got a lot more money. He's got a much bigger house than us. The Fertitas, Ari Emanuel, all those guys, Sean Shelby, Mick Maynard, those guys are all set. Why are we rushing to? They understand the situation that we're all in. We can't go anywhere. So I think they get that we're all in very tight spots. So the best thing to do is just kind of hang out, let this thing play out, try to train the best that you can, so that when the ball gets rolling, you can try to jump the gears and get into fight shape as fast as you can. And then maybe you take the fight. But right now, from this month of August, it's just absolutely ridiculous if you ask me.
And on the flip side of that coin, I think that's a very level-headed response. But is there any concern on your part that, like, hey, if I'm the guy that waits till this thing ends and I'm not gonna, take a fight during the quarantine period, that, hey, when it comes down and they're trying to decide between me and Peter Yan, which guy I'm gonna, is gonna get the title, is that tough to not take that, kind of bite at that idea?
Not at all. Peter Yan and Marlon Moraes are not fighting until June 13th. They have a lot of time for this thing to kind of figure itself out. They got all of April, they got all of May, and then they got 2 weeks into June. So they got time. And I would imagine that those guys who are in a number one contender fight are probably training at their gym, low key, and they probably have a core select group of guys that are coming down and training with them as well, low key. And like you said, man, if it's an opportunity like that, title fights are life-changing money. And by life-changing money, it's by the UFC standards. It's not by the NBA, the NFL, MLB, in terms of another high-level organization. It's just a different standard. We're in a different bracket in terms of the money that we can make. Even fight for a world title. Even if you win the world title, you're still in that same bracket. You're making life-changing money for what we are as a whole, I guess, as an MMA community as a whole. But when it comes to other professional athletes, this is nowhere near. This is not even a fraction of the life-changing money that those guys make in their respective sports. So I don't see any rush to jump the gun and to worry about losing a spot right now. I'm worried about my health, and I'm worried about my close family and friends' health. And I think those guys all come first. At the end of the day, money ain't gonna bring somebody back from the grave. So if that's your end all be all, then more power to you. Again, everyone has their own perspective and their own wishes and the things that they want to accomplish. And if they think fighting in a time period like this is going to be beneficial to them, more power to you. Again, I think it's ill-advised. I think you're putting yourself at risk. And like I said, if it's a title fight, the risk, the juice might be worth the squeeze. And if you could have those guys that you trust in your corner who are going to be properly social distancing themselves, then okay, it makes sense. But a fight in June, a fight in late May, I think those guys have some time for this thing to kind of shake out and play out and see what happens. And we'll see what happens, man. That's really it. I'm not worried about anybody jumping this queue because I think I'm pretty confident in my abilities and my position. And I think one fight changes everything.
And I noticed that you keep talking about, if it's a title fight, that's a different story. So we don't know what's going to happen with UFC 250. It's sounding like that Brazil is not going to be the place that it happens. And if that's the case, who knows what the situation is with Jose Aldo. So I know Henry Cejudo saying that Dominic Cruz he wants if Aldo falls out, but do you feel like you're the guy? I mean, it makes all the sense in the world from my perspective, but I just want to hear you talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, Henry Cejudo is the first guy I ever seen go from triple champ to triple chump in all of the blink of an eye. This guy there's no boundaries on what this guy is going to say next. He just says a lot of ridiculous stuff that makes no sense. He's calling out a guy who's 2-4 in his last 6 fights. Now he's calling out a guy who's hasn't fought and coming off a very lopsided fight loss back in December of 2016. And he has 2 viable contenders. I wouldn't even be mad if they pulled Peter Yan and gave Peter Yan the title fight over me, because he's the next guy who's closest. But Peter Yan's probably over at Tiger Muay Thai right now, so the fight probably wouldn't be able to happen. So the next logical guy I would think would be myself or Corey Sandhagen. And if I had to take a bet out of who the UFC would put first between myself and Corey Sandhagen, I would think it would be myself, just based on the platform and the amount of body of work that we both have under our resume. And I think that's really it. I mean, I would not mind being the guy to jump in there. That's a life-changing situation for myself. Again, and it's not like the money. It's so ridiculous where my kids' kids are going to be set. It's nothing like that. I got to make sure I'm being responsible with the money I make and do the right thing so that I'm financially set, at least for myself and my girlfriend. And so I do the right things for my future. But I would like to be the guy. I think if they need a huckleberry, I could get proper training partners. I could have them put up in my house, and we'll be a group of 3 to 5 people at most, and we'll let's get it on every single day until it's time to fight.
Right on, man. And when you hear Cejudo say those things where he's mentioning Aldo and he got that fight, and now he's mentioning Cruz, do you think that that's more so of a gimmick, or do you think that there's some reasoning behind that too? What do you kind of attribute that to?
I think it's a little bit of a gimmick and a little bit of seriousness. And I get where he's coming from a competitor's mindset. He's saying I beat all the toughest guys in the division in terms of TJ Dillashaw coming down to 125, which is, in my opinion, different. The guy hasn't made 125, I think, since college. And he came down 125. Although he cheated, he still beat him in 32 seconds. Okay, you got that one. Then you have a questionable win against Mighty Mouse, which a lot of people thought he lost, or at best could have been a draw. And then he beat Marlon Moraes, who was on a tear and killing everybody in the division at bantamweight. So I understand him saying, I think I deserve to choose and pick who I want to fight. All right, pick and choose who you want to fight out of the top contenders, not pick and choose people who are coming off the couch. That is a big difference in your championship obligations to the fans. Give the fans the top contender fights that they want to see. They want to see the best. This isn't boxing. We're not handpicking fights for guys to say, oh, I've done a lot of work, so I think I deserve. No, you are at the top of the mountain. You fight whoever comes climbing tooth and nail to get there, and you try your best to dispatch them and sit on top of that throne. That's how you build fans. That's how you build a legacy. And quite frankly, I think that's how you make the money. You beat the people who the UFC put in front of you in terms of contenders. And I think the fans ultimately, and you keep winning, I think the money comes. You keep doing what you're doing with this whole gimmick shit, you keep winning, the money comes. I could go out there and lose to Cejudo. Who knows? You know, he's beat some tough guys. I highly doubt he'll beat me though. But he goes out there, he beats myself, he beats Peter Yan. The money's gonna come. People are gonna respect the body of work that he has. Yeah, you beat TJ, EPO TJ. Yeah, you beat Mighty Mouse allegedly, and yeah, you beat Marlon Moraes. But that's two people. You have a loss to Benavidez. What are you doing that's really securing your legacy? Now you want to fight Jose Aldo, a guy who's on the downswing of his career, because you want to have GOAT for. Yeah, he's the GOAT of the era that was back then, not now. It's a different time period. So fight the guys who are the best and consider the best, because that's how you become the greatest of all time, not just cherry picking your fights and making a mockery and a clown of the division.
And my last question for you, I'd be remiss not to ask it. What's the latest on the wrist? I know I'd seen some other interviews you were saying that it's a mobility issue more than it is like an actual injury at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's like exactly that. It's more of a mobility, range of motion thing. I mean, I couldn't even put my hand flat on the ground. This is my good hand, but I couldn't even put my good hand flat when I was doing my cartwheels into the octagon. I would have to go and prop it up because I couldn't deal with the pain that was in my wrist. And I finally got it fixed. It was 4 years, man, fighting like that, training like that, a lot of pain. And it got progressively worse. I won't lie. At the beginning, it wasn't as bad, but I would get little impingements here and there. And then eventually I ran into the ground. And the doctor said, good thing you got it done when you did it, because otherwise your wrist could have been to the point where there was no return. It would have just been either fuse your wrist and have no range of motion whatsoever. And that would have been it. So right now I still have a chance to get back the majority of my range of motion. I've seen some previous surgeries that he's done from high-level athletes in the NFL for the New York Giants and other combat sports, and those guys have full range of motion. And I just got to stay diligent with that, and hopefully it'll come. I mean, right now it's better than what it was before in terms of the pain threshold. And I've been grappling like this with one hand when I had the one cast on since December. So I think if I had to put a number on it, I'm probably about 65, 70%. I'm probably closer to 70 in terms of the strength and everything, and the range of motion. I think overall, that's my full assessment of where I'm at.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate the time, Aljo. Best of luck with the recovery, and good luck with whatever's next, man.
No doubt. Thanks for having me. And if you see Triple Clown, tell him I'm coming. There's always a clown in the circus, and I'm ready to end the circus act.